want to see. I just delete. Okay.
I got a little red thing. Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, I had to go empty out my trash, which probably had like 50 gigabytes of stuff in it. So we're good to go, man.
Awesome, man.
But shoot, you ready to roll it then?
Let's rock and roll, man. Let's do it.
Alrighty. I'll do my little intro. I'm gonna get a drink.
Go for it, man.
I need to hydrate for this stimulating conversation we're about to have.
I know. I may regret not having a glass of water next to me. You're a pro, you know. Hey, we'll see. We'll rock and roll.
Alrighty. What is up, everyone? And welcome to episode 19 of the Trainer Scoop, a podcast dedicated to helping individuals passionate about fitness, improve, and life in lifting. Today's guest is one of my very, very good friends, Mr. Matt Inniger. Matt, say what's up to the people real quick.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully this isn't your first time, watching Dave. He's an expert. He's got incredible content, so keep coming back and learning more from him, man.
My hype man. So Matt, the first thing I always like to do is provide a little bit of backstory into how we actually know each other. So
all right.
I'm going to reoriented myself for the recording. So I'm going to go through my first memory of you because I've had a lot of the guys from SIGEP on the podcast, and yours was a little different, right? So you were on co-op my freshman year.
That's right.
I heard just the fables about you. But I distinctly remember in probably like the first or second chapter meeting of my sophomore year. So this was like way back, 2016. I remember you getting up to say something. You were on the other side of the room, rocking your ON shirt, blue. Do you remember the shirt?
I do now. Yeah, I still have it, I think. Oh, yeah.
Go change. No,
I have a funny story about that shirt. We'll come back around to it.
Yes, I need to hear it. And so you stood up, and this is when you had the whole Thor look going. Like,
oh, yeah, long hair. Oh, geez.
I'd say this man actually embodied Thor. It couldn't have come any closer because I'm going to have to actually find a picture and throw it up.
Throw it up here?
Because,
heck yeah.
You were just looking so jacked, and the hair, I was like, who is this guy? Like, I know that I was one of the lifters in the chapter. Of course, we had Topol, but I held myself like –
we had a crew of people who were –
Yeah. Brandon Stein. I held myself in like probably the upper tier, not quite at the top, but and then I see you, I'm like, damn, I gotta up my game. So that was that was my first memory of you. And then just upon talking to you from the many Scott dining hall meals we had together.
Heck yeah.
Going into Smash
on the reg.
The training sessions at like 5:30 a.m. when the RPAC opened.
That's what sticks with me is you're like the only other morning person to go.
Yeah.
You're the only other person who would do that. I remember I used to get, and speaking of all the other guys who left, I used to get like, Tobin I would argue incessantly about like, he's telling me training in the morning suboptimal, and you know how he is, right? And he's kind of, part of this is right, but I really admire that about you. You're a bright and early guy, man, just like me.
Yeah. So lots of good memories.
Yeah, man.
And just later down the road, I think I didn't even realize what kind of like a knowledge resource you were. Because one, you've had some really cool experiences, but two, you're also a very, very bright guy. So as we get into all that fun stuff, do you want to tell everyone just a little bit about yourself? You could tell the ON shirt story.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to give a little bit of a background.
Yeah.
Good deal. Well, Dave and I know each other from SIGEP at Ohio State. In fact, you were still on my phone as Dave Martin PNM. I've never told you that before. I should probably change that eventually, but you are still, that's what I just got when you texted me about this. And yeah, I have been, into weightlifting, into fitness for a long time. What got me into my original love of powerlifting in high school were two pretty catastrophic knee injuries. I was sidelined from all athletic activities for a couple of years, and both my knees reconstructed. And that's when I really started learning to love the gym. I didn't compete in powerlifting. We didn't have that, where I grew up. But I loved being in the gym, threw out a bunch of weight, benching 400 pounds in high school and all that good stuff.
Just casually dropped.
Transitioned from powerlifting into bodybuilding early on in college. And kind of, when I started getting the sig up is when I kind of made that transition. I lost a bunch of weight, started putting on more muscle. And doing that was a great foundation. I lost a bunch of weight in a really bad way, but when I started understanding myself a lot better, and you mentioned knowledge, right? Getting that knowledge is really important, because when you don't know what you're doing, you can really hurt yourself in a lot of ways. And building a knowledge base as I began to kind of like rebuild my physique was really important. And people in SIGAP, people like Dave, were really helpful in getting me the knowledge that I needed to do that. And then one of the really significant experiences for me in the fitness world is, I worked at Optimum Nutrition 2 summers. I was an intern there twice, and had an awesome experience working with the team over there. I worked in research and development, so I worked on new products, stuff that ON makes private label, GNC brand items. I worked on some Optimum Nutrition brand products and their other brands, BSN, Isopure, ABB, all that good stuff. So I was able to learn a ton about supplementation. And that's been something, Dave's seen me talk about supplements before, and I got a lot of thoughts about supplements. And that was an important thing for me. And one of the things that I haven't mentioned to you, Dave, before, but I think is really important, is I learned a ton from working at Optimum, but I only learned a ton from working at Optimum. Or one of the reasons I learned a ton from being there is that while I was there, I cared a lot about learning about supplements and went out into the world to learn about them. So nothing that I have, nothing that I'll say here, or you'll ever hear me say, is like secret insider info that only people who work for big supplement companies have. It's stuff that I picked up from reading blogs and reading websites and watching videos and talking to people who have done it before and trying things myself. I've had hundreds of supplements, and some are great and some are terrible. And that's how you learn this stuff, is by doing. And so I've transitioned I worked at Optimum twice. Maybe my career will take me back into performance supplements. I do work as a consulting engineer, still in the food processing industry. So we'll see, maybe I'll end up back in supplements someday. Could be a lot of fun. I have, Dave, you know this, I even made my own pre-workout formula and sold the guys to get. So that was something I did once. We'll see if we ever get back around to that. But since I've been at Optimum, I've been a hobbyist bodybuilder. I have, I pride myself on progressing. One of the things I really enjoy about bodybuilding as a hobby is the linear relationship between the work you put in and the result you see. Right? A lot of sports aren't like that. Right? If you play football, sometimes somebody's more confident. And while obviously there's a lot of things like genetics that come into play with bodybuilding, at the end of the day, you're not competing against the person who has crazy genetics and can, eat like a horse and still great. You're competing against yourself. And in that competition, the path is straight. And it's all about what you put in is what you get out. So I really value that. I appreciate the quantitative approach you can take. Although it's about me, I'm not as quantitative as other bodybuilders. I don't count calories. I hardly count macros. I don't count sets. I'm very much a feel guy. And kind of as you learn to understand your body, you'll be able to make the right decisions day in, day out, and progress that way. Definitely. I live in the Toledo area now. Proud member at Fitness for All up here in the northwest part of Ohio. If you guys find yourselves in Toledo Metro, definitely look into Fitness for All, and there are multiple locations here around the Toledo area. It's a great chain of gyms. So that's about me. I've got a beautiful wife. Her name's Caitlin. Dave knows her. She's a old SIGEP too. And that's kind of my background at this point.
Yeah. Thank you, Matt. I think one thing to comment off of that, I remember in regard to your training style, like going through a workout with you, and now that I've learned more and more, I think it's like a really, really good approach for hypertrophy training. But I was like really blown away with this when we first kind of like did a workout together. And like you said, it was like strictly off feel. Mm-hmm. And you were like, we'll go for like, it doesn't really matter the amount of reps, just kind of like to where you feel like you're getting close to failure, but not quite there. So do you want to talk about like the training style that you've kind of developed throughout the years? And I know we were mentioning before we started recording how it's evolved over the COVID shutdown as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. So, my training philosophy's changed a lot as I've learned over the last 6 years that I've, been bodybuilding, so to speak. And that's because I learn new things and I understand myself better, and everyone will encounter similar things as they progress through their fitness journeys. But I'm really happy with the philosophy I have currently. I feel like it's definitely the most successful one that I've ever utilized. Even from the beginning, I've been a big proponent of volume. Volume is the key to hypertrophy. There are a lot of people who try to throw around crazy Ronnie Coleman weights, and there are a lot of people who try to do crazy Dorian Yates failure sets. I don't think those things are effective. I don't think they're particularly effective for people who are for enhanced athletes. I think they're very ineffective for athletes who are not enhanced, like you and I. And I follow the Jay Cutler school of bodybuilding, so to speak. And the stuff that I say, if you guys listen to the stuff that he says and the things that he says, all be very similar. So yeah, I'm a big believer in volume, and not even necessarily volume per workout, but volume per week. I am a high frequency trainer. Train each muscle group 3 times a week now. I used to be 2. I started out 2. Now it's 3. And I might only do, 15, 20 sets a workout for each muscle group, split up into 2 exercises, maybe 3. But that's 3 times a week that I'm initiating muscle protein synthesis and keeping that muscle protein synthesis rate high. Because you and I we talked a lot about the difference between people who care about bodybuilding, the people that they idolize, people that they learn from, the people that they watch are not in the same playing field as most people who are trying to progress. And that's fine, right? But we have to do things differently. And people who aren't utilizing cutting edge enhancements to grow, they're not going to be able to maintain high levels of muscle protein synthesis constantly. They're not going to be able to eat and instantly metabolize everything they eat. And the key to maintaining that high muscle protein synthesis is frequent training. Now, rest days are important, and that's why I'm not a big believer in high volume. I don't do 50 sets of shoulders on Monday and not do them again until next Monday. Because you'll hurt your joints, that it's guaranteed to happen. And 2, you have elevated muscle protein synthesis for what, Monday or Tuesday, maybe Wednesday. By Thursday, you're done. Your shoulders are done growing, and you don't train again for another 4 days. So it's just wasted time. And bodybuilding in a lot of ways is a marathon, not a sprint. A lot of people have asked me for advice. Oh, what do I do differently? How do I change my approach to be successful? Well, honestly, you don't. You keep doing what you're doing. You just do it for another 5 years, and then you'll be happy with where you're at. So not wasting time is really important. And so how I structure my workouts in order to achieve sort of maximum volume is I don't count sets, right? I don't say I'm going to go in and do 15 sets of back today and 15 sets of biceps. Instead, I work out on time. So like I said, I train each muscle group 3 times a week. So right now, one of my workout days, well, it happens 3 times, is biceps, back, and chest, believe it or not. And part of my split is kind of messed up because of COVID, and I'm only in gyms a couple times a week, and so I like to train certain muscle groups in a gym versus other ones that you can train at home. So I'll train chest, back, and biceps on one day. And I start with biceps. I prioritize arms, something I'd like to continue to progress in, so I'll start off with biceps. And I'll do, instead of saying, oh, I'm going to do 10 sets of preacher curls, I do 5.5 minutes of as many sets of preacher curls as possible to, at this point, 12 to 15 reps, right? I like to get a big pump. I don't think that if you're operating the 4 to 6 rep range, you're getting that sort of blood flow you need to grow. So 5.5 minutes of as many sets of preacher curls as possible in that 12 to 15 rep range. If I'm no longer able to get that 12 to 15 rep range, obviously drop weight. Important tangent here, and you know this, Dave, and a lot of people know this, but it's really important. Weight in bodybuilding is not a metric, right? It doesn't matter how much weight you're lifting. It matters how much you're taxing your muscles. The amount of weight you're lifting is completely inconsequential, right? It only matters how much you're taxing your body. And if you'll tax your body the same amount when you do 12 hard reps that you fail on the 13th, whether that's at a 145-pound bench or 300-pound bench. If you're taxing your muscles that much, that's how you progress. So weight is inconsequential. Adjust your weight to hit your rep ranges, and you'll always be good. And then after, my 5.5 minutes of biceps, I'll jump over 5.5 minutes of back, right? Let's say, and that's only one exercise. So I might do, 5.5 minutes of as many sets as possible of, we have a great hammer strength reverse pull down at my gym. Big fan. Depending on where you sit, you can do more of upper lat, or you can make it more of a low row if you sit back in the seat. It's great. 5.5 minutes of as many sets of that as possible. Hop right over to whatever chest exercise I'm going to do first. I like to start with press. I didn't prioritize presses and chest training for a long time. It's come back to bite me with just way over prioritized outer sweep of the pecs and kind of a lack of inner thickness in the pecs. So I prioritize presses now. So I'll do either a dumbbell press or a machine press, 5.5 minutes, as many as possible. And then I'll go back to biceps. 5 more minutes biceps, 5 more minutes back, 5 more minutes chest, doing a different exercise, let's say hammer curls, cable rows, and incline press. And then I'll go back again, 5 more minutes. Crucifix cable curls, barbell rows, cable pullovers, and a back deck, right? Done. So I keep rest times low, like as low as possible. I don't think I've ever rested for more than 20 seconds during a workout in the last 2 years. And volume high. So in that time period, how much time is that? 30 minutes. In that 30-minute workout, I'm probably doing 70 sets, 60 to 70 sets. But it's different muscle groups. So 60 sets of chest would be a ton. It'd kill you. But 60 sets of 3 muscle groups is a lot of volume. In a day, you're burning a lot of calories, but you're not overtaxing any of your individual muscle groups. And that's another tough thing for a lot of people when they start to understand is overtraining from the area where you're going to get hurt is hard. There's a lot of people in the fitness world who say overtraining is a myth, right? And it kind of is, right? It's hard to get rhabdo. It's really hard to get rhabdo, but it can happen. So be on the lookout. It's hard to get it. But it's very easy to set yourself back because you're overtraining. It's very easy to slow your progress down because on International Chest Day, you did 40 sets of flat barbell bench, right? So that's something that you need to understand. Feel out. Once again, only every individual person understands their body better. If you can do 40 sets of flat barbell bench, and on Thursday when it's time to train chest again, you feel awesome, good on you, bud. Do it again. But understanding your limits is a really important thing, and you're never going to understand that on your first try. What works for me works great for me. I'd highly recommend people continue to do it. They can really be split up into the number one thing of the Matt Inniger training philosophy is work out for time, not for sets. It can be adapted into any other training philosophy at that point. Just do as many sets as possible in a certain time period. It's more efficient from a time standpoint. We're all busy, and it helps you keep your intensity high. Mm-hmm. Intensity is one of the 3 things that you progress in the gym, right? You can progress in volume, you can progress in weight, you can progress in intensity. Volume and weight are really easy to measure. I did more weight than last week. I did 2 more sets than last week. And I count sets generally, but intensity is really hard. And there's obviously a lot of really advanced tension techniques, drop sets, supersets, force negatives, things like that. They're helpful, and I use them sometimes. But an easy way for me to measure intensity is, well, I did this many sets per minute today, and 2 weeks ago, I was only doing this many sets per minute. And that's understanding that I'm continuing to keep my intensity high, and also a good way to measure how much I'm training. If my third shoulders, triceps, legs day, I only do my sets per minute drops by, half a set, a quarter of a set maybe. Something's probably wrong. Like, do I need to back off? Do I need to only train that twice next week, right? Those are things that allow you to take an honest look at yourself and make sure that you're continuing to recover while also pushing yourself to your limits. So yeah, that's kind of the Matt Inniger training philosophy. Volume is king. Do all your exercises for time. 12 to 15 reps, lots of pump. I'm a big fan of machine movements. A lot of people aren't. Free weights are great and they're important, and stabilizer muscles and all that. But guess what, bud? You can't see stabilizer muscles in a front double bicep. So,
I'm gonna clip that out and just put it as a story or something on Instagram.
So especially when it's late in the workout and you're trying to grind through a couple more sets, right? A machine chest press can be a lifesaver after you've already done a dumbbell press because it allows you to squeeze your chest, isolate your chest muscles, especially things you're weak in, right? What's an example for me? Honestly, chest is an example for me, right? I used to have a big bench. I don't anymore. So I really enjoy machine presses because they allow me to isolate my chest and avoid using triceps or shoulders because I get enough tricep and shoulder work already, right? And isolation is really important in bodybuilding. It's not in other sports. It's not in powerlifting, right? But if you're training to gain muscle, to look a certain way, isolation can be really valuable. And I'm a big believer in utilizing machine exercises when it's necessary, when it feels good, when you're not going to hurt yourself, and when you can still be intense, when it's taxing. Machines, 2 thumbs up.
Yeah.
I
like that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything I left out that I like to talk about.
Oh, go ahead.
Cardio. This is important. This is important for me if you don't want me going on a little tangent here.
Mm-hmm.
So for a long time, most of my bodybuilding journey happened in college, right? I've been out for almost 2 years now, but the majority of it was in college. And you know this, at Ohio State, you get cardio in, right? You'll walk 1.5 miles every day going to and from class. I used to have a lot of problems keeping on weight in college because I would walk so much. And because I do a lot of sets in my workouts and my heart's pumping, I would feel like, man, must be getting great cardio. I don't have body fat issues. I'm able to stay lean year round. And I thought to myself, great, I don't need to do cardio. I just train hard. Awesome. Well, one of the first things I noticed after getting out of college is that doesn't continue to be the case. While I still train hard and my heart rate is still high, there is a big difference, and I'm not a doctor, I don't know it, between cardio exercise and weight training. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, the reason we're all here, I hope, is to be healthy and to live a fulfilled life. And cardio is important for that. Mm-hmm. Right? It doesn't matter if you're already lean, it doesn't matter if you eat super clean, so you don't have to do cardio, do it. All I do, I walk every morning. I take a 30-minute walk every morning. That's it. Mm-hmm. And it's a health thing. It's not really a lose body fat thing. It's not really a burn calorie thing. It's a health thing. It's important. For a long time, I ignored it. And I regret it. So all you young bodybuilders out there think you don't have to do cardio. You don't have to run sprints after you work out. You don't have to, get on a stair mill for 1.5 hours every morning in your cutoff hoodie. Okay. Just
fasted.
Don't want to walk. You don't have to do it fasted. You don't have to do it in the morning. You don't have to do it at night. You don't have to make sure it's, you do your cardio 8 hours before you do your weight training. Just do something, get your heart rate up for 25 minutes a day. It's important to do it outside of the gym. So that's my last tidbit of information there.
Yeah, no, I'm happy you actually included that because especially for bodybuilders, you can get away with the stage look if your diet is dialed in like 100%. But, even if it's just aerobic cardio, it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't have to be crazy. Mm-hmm. The benefits that it has for your longevity are huge. And
bingo.
To sort of echo your point of, you're not really, you're definitely challenging your cardiovascular system, especially when you do a workout like yours. But I would say the modalities are a little different in the way it physiologically works, right? Mm-hmm. So one thing that sticks out in my mind is one of my professors in a nutrition for performance class, she said, if you're just lifting weights, actually to provide a little more context, we were talking about how to set macronutrient values and calorie values.
Yep.
And of course you have to factor in activity, right? And there was like a range of, I might be a little off here, but 1.2 times your BMR, your basal metabolic rate, just like what you need to survive bedridden. So that range was like 1.2 if you're bedridden, all the way up to like 1.7, maybe even higher if you're doing extremely demanding like physical labor work. And if you're just hitting the gym and doing resistance training, and now I will say with Matt, you're probably a little higher than the average trainee, but man, if you're just hitting the weights and not really focusing on cardio, your activity factor is probably like 1.35 to 1.45.
Bingo.
It's very low.
And I wouldn't say even with really challenging resistance training, it's a whole lot higher. And once again, I don't know the science behind it, but I've seen enough doctors to know that there is a difference somehow. And you mentioned the health thing is really important because as people continue to progress, especially people who bodybuild and people who are trying to gain a lot of muscle, eventually you're going to weigh a lot. when you weigh a lot, that's going to put a lot of stress on your heart, right? And that's something that I've had to deal with here in the last 6 months, right? I'm almost 240 pounds. And like, that's when it's hit. That's when I started having negative side effects from not doing cardio. 240 pounds.
How are you feeling that?
I had some blood pressure issues, believe it or not.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and that got me to the doctor, and then oh, I work out all the time. How do I have blood pressure issues? What's going on? Well, dude, you're heavy, and that puts a tax on your heart. And believe it or not, no matter how tired you are, no matter how heavy you're breathing at the gym, you're not training your heart when you're training your biceps, right? And it takes such a little amount to help, right? I drink beet juice powder and I walk 30 minutes in the morning, and it's like gone, right? But it's really important to do, and it's important to stay on top of, because you don't want to get in a situation where you've made a lot of progress and you put your health in danger, because this does happen. Like, being heavy in any regards is bad for your body. Right. And so you need to make sure you're training all aspects of it to be able to handle the excess amount of weight that you're carrying. So yeah, that's been probably honestly the biggest thing I've learned over the last 6 months. Nice. is as I began to gain more and more muscle, it became a huge concern. So yes, all you young bodybuilders out there, prioritize it now, and then you'll have to add it into your routine later on when it becomes a problem. So
yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Dude.
That was really good. To circle back to your weight training style, I feel like, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I try to keep a good eye out, but I feel like it's kind of more on the unconventional side, whereas like it's definitely effective, but not as many people adopt that type of training. And I'll definitely, I'll definitely be interested to see, because like, through time, science catches up to the principles that like bodybuilders or, the practitioners are doing.
Right.
And maybe it's just that with that style of training, where it's more time focused, I don't know of many studies that analyze that. I might be just a little misinformed or uninformed, but I'll be interested to see in the future the results of that, because I have no doubt eventually they'll be completed. But I would say like the time efficiency and the overall just volume completed, it's very cool. And, I'm just remembering back to the couple of times that we did work out together, and I thought it was so strange, but man, you definitely get a good pump going, and it feels like a great workout.
Yeah. And one thing I'll mention, you made a good point, is, well, hey, this, is there science backs up? I don't know. Maybe Jeff Nepper will do a video on it eventually. But you bring up a good point, which is that this is something that in my anecdotal experience has been effective. And some other people, Jay Cutler's anecdotal experience has been effective. The time thing is really just a way to measure, right? Like, if you buy Jay Cutler's ebook, he'd tell you to just count your sets and do it that way. But I just think time it's easier to stay on task, easier to work out intensely. Yeah. But bring up a good point, which is that this works for me, and I tell people it works for me, and I don't have a lot of proof outside of me. And that's true. And you hit the nail on the head, which is that, and this is a guy who cares about science in the fitness industry. It's really hard to do, and it's really hard to repeat studies, because every person is so different. Mm-hmm. And the number one thing that I would tell any young or seasoned bodybuilder is the only way you know if a certain system or a certain philosophy or a certain exercise or a certain diet or a certain food works for you is if you try it. Yeah. A lot of people are really scared of messing with their routines. Oh, this has worked for me. I'm seeing progress. Maybe I'll see more progress if I try something different, but maybe I'll regress. And I'm scared to regress. And so I'm not going to try different things, or I'm scared to plateau or just not progress, or whatever it is. This has worked. I'm making progress in some regards. Therefore, I'll continue to do it. You got to try different things. And you got to try things for a long time. If you do, like I brought up Ronnie Coleman and Jordan Yates earlier, right? I don't think their training methods are optimal. It worked for them, right? So you got to be able to try and be willing to try different things to understand what fits your body best. And obviously take into account all the relevant research. These people do great things, read, understand, but at the end of the day, you have to be comfortable running experiments on yourself and trying different philosophies to understand if they work, and be willing to invest in them for a certain amount of time. My golden rule is like a month. Give yourself a month of a different diet. Give yourself a month of trying keto and seeing how it does versus a conventional diet. Give yourself a month of training high volume instead of, low rep, high weight. Give yourself a month of hit cardio instead of your hour of fast and steady state on the stair mill and your cutoff footy, right? If you do that, you'll be able to bet, you might discover something that will help you progress exponentially faster, or B, you're just gonna understand yourself better. That's huge, right? That's really important, right? I remember before you knew me, I was vegetarian for like 2 months. I thought it'd be fun, and I thought I could figure out how to do it, and it'd be healthier, right? Not at all. I lost a bunch of weight, and I was sick all the time because I was eating a whole bunch of dairy and eggs and other protein sources, and it didn't work. But I tried it, and now I know better, right? And that worked for some people. There's you and I know some people who are vegan and are incredibly successful in fitness, but it didn't work for me, and I tried it out. So that's the last thing I'll say is that gotta be willing to get outside your comfort zone and try something, because you never know when it's going to be really successful.
Definitely. So we talked about kind of running little scientific experiments on yourself. Matt, do you want to talk about a little bit about your educational background? Because for some reason, I always mix up what your degree was.
Yeah, it's funky.
I kind of know, but I kind of don't. So
yeah, it's funky. So I have a Bachelor of Science, right, from the Ohio State University, College of Engineering and College of Food, Agriculture, and Environmental Sciences in food, agricultural, and biological engineering, right? So I am a specialized food processing engineer, right? I tell people that I have a chemical engineering background with a little bit of food science, and I am trained to understand how food products are manufactured, how they're made, how they're developed, how they're transported, how they're packaged, everything that goes into stuff you see in a grocery store. That's what I do. I help get it there. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I got into that field because of fitness. Yeah. I care a lot about what I eat. I have for a long time. And when I was young in college, and I was a regular chemical engineer, and I thought to myself, man, what are some things that I'm passionate about? Food is one of them. At Ohio State had this really awesome specialized program I was happy to jump into and learn a lot. But yeah, I mean, really, my overall mission is to provide people with not only nutritious food, but convenient nutritious food. Because the really unfortunate thing is that eating well is hard. It's not only expensive, it's hard. People who have a lot of money can't eat well because it takes time, it takes energy, it takes mental fortitude to do. It is hard. And something that I care about is providing opportunities to people to eat well. Frankly, the thing I find most frustrating about eating well is the time, right? I joke with my wife that I have transcended taste, right? I can eat the same thing for every meal the rest of my life. I don't really care what food tastes like anymore. It's not a problem for me to eat whatever and survive. But it is a problem for me to go to the grocery store and buy the things we need to eat well and cook them all to eat. That sucks. Yeah. So something that I care about in my career is making that easier, so that lazy people like me can just drink a shake and get everything they need, or whatever it is, right? So that's my background, and that has that idea of convenience driving sustainability in dieting and eating well is a big part of how I view nutrition, right? That's a really big part of fitness too. Is obviously how we train is very important, but you cannot train a bad diet, yada yada yada. Eating is important. And really, my philosophy on eating is really similar to my philosophy on training. And that is that I certainly don't count calories. I hardly count macros. At the end of the day, if I'm trying to gain weight, I eat when I'm hungry. And when I eat, I make good decisions, right? Whenever I eat a meal, if I'm trying to gain weight, I try to eat macronutrients in the ratio of 3 to 2 to 1 carbs, protein, fat, right? That's how if I'm gaining weight, whenever I eat, if I'm eating a quick snack and it's a few spoonfuls of peanut butter and some essential aminos, or if it's an entire meal and, it's a Chipotle bowl with, 3 scoops of black beans and chicken and brown rice or whatever it is, right? Or if I'm getting beer and wings, on a Friday night, I still try to, hey, I'm going to pass on the fries, maybe get boneless wings, still enjoy a beer too if I like. But how do I structure each one of these meals in a way that makes sense and gets close to my goals. Because while I'm certain, because there are some people who say, oh, you don't need to count calories, I'll lose weight. I mean, the fact of the matter is, from a thermodynamic standpoint, be in a caloric deficit to lose weight or be in a caloric excess to gain weight. That's important. But I think the number one key to success in a diet is longevity. You got to do something you can do every single day. It can't feel like a diet, because if you're dieting, you're eventually going to stop dieting. And then when you go back to eating well or eating normally, you're not going to make good decisions. So I'm a big believer in establishing baselines, in working off of frameworks, so that wherever you're at, whatever food decision you're making a good one. And if you make good ones, more times than not, you're going to be in good shape. I admire people who count calories. I admire people who count macros and use MyFitnessPal and all this other stuff. That's great. But if I did it, I wouldn't be able to continue to make the conditions that I want to. I'd crack. I'd be hungry all the time. I'd overeat. So those things, that's kind of how I approach nutrition. I don't think it's as optimal as how I train in the gym. I think I benefit from Gen X in the way that I can eat more and differently than a lot of other people and still be okay. But the only thing you should listen to me on in the nutrition realm, folks, is prioritize sustainability and how you eat. Because if you can't do it forever, you're not going to be successful.
Yeah, that's a great key, I think, for a lot of people to understand. And I appreciate your honesty, because there's so many people out there who be like, this works for me, this has got to be the way it is. But yeah, like, you made some really good points along that as well. I think your mission statement, it's really cool. It's like the first time I've ever heard you say that, Matt. So that was cool to hear. And man, I could definitely echo what you're saying with like the whole meal, especially because I'm in like a caloric surplus right now as well.
Mm-hmm.
It takes time. So I'm running the, I don't know if you've ever heard of that Renaissance periodization diet app.
No, I haven't.
Yeah. So it essentially is, it's kind of like MyFitnessPal, but it takes the data that you put in and gives you exactly what macronutrient ranges you need to hit for your meals, accounting for, your activity, the amount you actually do like workouts, and your weight gain over time. So right now, I think I'm going to check it real quick. Yesterday, it had me on, no, maybe it was Monday. It had me on, where was it? Oh, 225 grams of protein, 100 grams of fat, and 610 grams of carbs, which is like more than
600 grams of carbs. Yeah. A lot of people don't understand how much food that is, or even 200 grams of protein. It's a challenge for me to eat 200 grams of protein a day. It really is. It's really tough. Like it's more than one 60-gram whey protein shake, which is absurd. Yeah, and it's tough. Frankly, it's tough to digest that much food. And that's why what I do is I just try to, I try to just eat what I can. Maybe have. I always tell people it's really easy. The easy thing to do to your diet, if you are a regular person and you would like to go to the gym and gain some weight and put on some muscle, the easy thing to do, go to the gym 5 days a week and drink one 30-gram protein shake. That's it. And you'll probably see progress. Sometimes that's all you need is a little bit of bump of extra protein to make a difference. And that's kind of what I do. Sometimes I'll just eat normally. And like I said, if it's a Friday and I know that, there's pizza at the end of the evening for me, I'll probably have one extra protein shake during the day to kind of like adapt for that.
Yeah.
And like I said, I really admire people who can continue to like count calories and do that. It's the better way to do it. It just wouldn't work for me. And then something else I wanted to mention, I thought that's what you're talking about, like short-term diets. The last few months, maybe a year, I know a lot of people who have done the Whole30 diet. Right? I'm not an expert. I've never done it. I don't really know how it works. I know no processed foods. I have beef with all processed foods, but that's fine. Maybe I'll kind of talk about that. I get it's cool. No matter sugar, this, that, the other. Awesome. Whole30 is an entirely unsustainable diet. You cannot eat Whole30 forever. You will fail. You will crack. You will never do it. And if you do it if it's whole 120, your crack's gonna be hard, right? You're really gonna crack. You're gonna eat nothing but ice cream for a week straight. It's gonna be terrible. But I love Whole30, and I love it, especially for beginners, because it helps them understand their bodies and then make good decisions. When you've eaten absurdly clean for 30 days, you understand how to eat nutritionally and how to make healthy meals, how to choose healthy meals when you're eating out. And when you understand how your body feels on good food, you'll continue to make those choices. So I love short-term diets as a framework to learn about yourself and to make good decisions. Because at the end of the day, I think dieting and nutrition is all about decision making. And I think Whole30 and other similar like diets are a great way to like learn how to make those decisions.
Yeah, I totally agree. Because while it might not be sustainable long term, it just teaches you so much. And similarly with while counting macros might not be the most sustainable thing, it does teach you what the portion size is. Like with peanut butter, especially like you mentioned earlier, like so many people would never understand what the true serving size of peanut butter is.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely little things like that can go a long way in just, helping you learn about how to create, once again, going back, a sustainable plan for you going forward. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it can be a pain, like making all this food and trying to do it. And as like, I'd say I try to be like 85% clean, because like if I try to go 100% clean with,
you can't do it. You can't do it. No, if you want to, it's better to be 85% clean 100% of the time than 100% clean 25% of the time.
Yeah, that's another good one. But I don't know if you remember this, Matt, but like my junior year, so yeah, I guess you had been a senior. I got off one of the most restrictive diets over that summer, and I was like diced. Like,
you were diced.
180.
You have been very diced a couple of times, and it's nuts. Like it's
like
it's crazy.
And then by winter, I was like 230. So I put on like 45 pounds. It was like definitely mostly fat. I did get a little stronger, but I went on a yellow bulk like no other.
Well, and one of the things I really admire about you, Dave, is your ability to go all in on your goals, right? And there's two things going on with this. First of all, the first one goes with eating, right? A lot of people are like, oh, I'm gonna I'm gonna gain, I'm gonna put on muscle and lose fat. No, you're not, dude. You're not, right? You're gonna do one. You're either gonna gain biomass or you're gonna lose biomass in your body. You're not gonna do both. It's incredibly challenging. You have to be pinpoint accurate with training and nutrition. It's very hard to do. You're either gonna put on muscle or you're gonna lose fat. One or the other. And that's important. And understanding that's really important. And I don't think there's a wrong decision. It's about what your goals are. And your ability to go all in on your goals is very important, because it leads me into something else that I think a lot of people miss in the fitness world, which is prioritization. You can't do everything at once, right? You got to prioritize what you want to improve on. If you want to get diced, prioritize getting diced and be okay with sacrificing some of your hard-earned gains in the process, because that's what happens, right? Go all in. Obviously part of getting diced is maintaining muscle mass, but don't say, oh, I'm going to get diced this summer and grow cannonball thighs. You do one or the other, and that's okay. And so prioritization is really important. It also comes back even when you're just trying to grow, even from a pure hypertrophy stance, which is of course my bread and butter. Prioritize muscle groups that you care about. Those could be weak points. They could be strong points. Whatever it is, prioritize what you want to be the best on and train it first, right? You know, Dave, one of my strongest muscle groups is my arms. And the reason that's the case is because they've been a priority for me for a very long time. I train them first, right? Hammer curl, right? I train it first all the time, right? Alternatively, a weak point for me, I have kind of weak traps, right? I've kind of got a kind of broad shoulder girdle naturally. I have pretty good delts, but like my trap's pretty weak. So what I did very little direct trap training for a long time. Like, oh, I do barbell rows. That's trap training. No, it's not. I train traps all the time now, right? 3 times a week. Traps get their very own workout, right? And so whether it's your weak points or your strong points, prioritize what you want to get better at and change those priorities as your goals change. But if you're not prioritizing well, you're not going to see the results you want. So
yeah. So you heard it here first, folks. Skip leg day if you don't care about it. No.
Actually, let's I'm going to get real for a second here because it's important.
Okay.
Because we're talking about priorities, and we're talking about real world fitness, right? Because I don't compete currently. I don't have any plans to. A lot of people enjoy bodybuilding and don't compete, which is great. When I was getting married, when I was about to get married, this was May of last year. Well, April, like spring and lead up to it, right? You get fitted for a suit and you get it tailored, and it's very important if it's really good, right? And I went in like tail end of March for my last fitting, and perfect, right? Well, The trousers were snug. They were snug. I thought to myself, I'm not gonna be able to wear these if I drink legs. Like I'm not like something will happen. I will gain a millimeter in thigh size, whatever it is, and I will bust these on my wedding day. And so I didn't train legs. And I knew I had to get in that suit later that summer. I didn't train legs from March to August.
Oh yeah.
You know what? Whatever, right? Like prioritize. And even if priorities aren't all gym focused, right? Like let's say that you've got finals coming up and you can only budget, 15 minutes a day to work out instead of your normal 45. Prioritize, right? What do you care about the most? Just do those important things, do a little bit. It's okay your life doesn't have to be the gym, right? And that should kind of feed into your priorities a little bit as well as stuff's going on outside the gym. It's okay to do that, even if it means skipping leg day. So yes, I have certified skipping leg day. You heard it here first.
That's a great story, man. I would have had mad respect because I was at your wedding. For those I would have had mad respect if you would have just stepped up onto that altar. You just see how big old split. I would have been like,
blow him up.
The game maker. Man, and I really like the prioritization point because I feel like you and I both have learned that the hard way.
Yes.
I remember just like seeing you on a Smith machine at the RPAC once at like 6 a.m. And I was like talking to you and I don't know like how it came about, but I was like talking like, oh, like you're a little tired today or something. You're like, dude, I don't sleep. Like you had so much going on in your undergrad and you just like maybe got like 4 hours of sleep a night. I was like, damn.
Hey, important prioritization notice. That was dumb.
Yeah.
Right. Like you said, I learned a lot of this stuff, folks. Like I messed up, right? Like I screwed up and learned, and I'm telling you. And one of those things is not sleeping. One of those things is not taking rest days. I went almost 2 years once taking a rest day. Terrible idea. This was very early. Terrible idea. Don't ever do it. Rest days are super important. Sleep is super important. Drop something else. That was my approach back in those days. It was like, well, sleep's the least important thing to me, so I'll just not sleep. No. If sleep is directly proportional to your success in the gym. And if success in the gym matters to you, sleep.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Yeah, I think, you and I both have very, very similar learning experiences like that. A lot of people do. And I wish we could stress the importance enough, but sadly, you just have to learn from experience.
A lot of people are gonna hear me and be like, you know what I'm talking about, man.
Yeah.
I know. I can do this forever. You can't.
Very true. Very true. So Matt, to kind of switch gears, we briefly talked about your work in the supplement industry, and I think you're just like an untapped knowledge source for that. So do you have any cool insights or, general tips, general pieces of advice for people?
Yeah, I do. I do think supplementation is important. I think there are people who say supplements are all a waste of money. I think they're wrong. I think there are people who say supplements are the only difference between you and, Mr. Olympia. They're also wrong, right? But I think they're really important in helping you reach your goals because of how they can help you perform, how they can help you recover specifically, right? So I think, you've heard me say this before, I think there are 3 supplements that everybody needs to succeed in the gym, right? 1 is a protein supplement. You and I talked about before, nobody eats enough protein, right? And a protein supplement, in this case, it's really a dietary supplement. It is food, right? That's all it is. Treat it like that. Mm-hmm. Everybody needs to eat more protein, even if it's only 30 grams or 60 grams or 90 grams. Everybody needs it, so use it. When it comes to protein powders and protein supplement choices, buy whatever's cheapest, man. Like, buy whatever's cheapest. I'm okay with, I like whey isolates because I can drink whey and it's the cheapest. I like isolates because they allow me to customize the kinds of carbs I'm eating. You're drinking all super cheapo Walmart protein and it's all whey protein concentrate, and you're drinking 8 grams of carbs per protein shake. Yeah, that's all milk sugar, right? You're losing a little bit of flexibility in that carb. So I prefer isolates. I can drink whey, so I do. If you can't, don't. There's a bunch of types. Vegan protein powders are a million times better than they were when I was working in the industry. So even if you're not somebody who eats purely vegan, they may be easier on your stomach. I've had beef protein isolates. I've had chicken protein isolates. I've had egg protein. You know, soy protein. It's actually not going to hurt you, right? I don't use it, but you can if you want. So choose a protein source that it's easy for you to digest. And trust me, it's easy to tell if you can digest it or not. And 2, fit your budget. That's the only thing I would recommend when it comes to it. If you're interested, I use Amazon brand. I don't know what it's got, like a brand name. I don't know what it is, but Amazon brand with protein isolate. The vanilla is terrible, but that's the only kind they have, so I drink that. If they have chocolate and you're in luck, grab it. It's better. That's the other thing. Taste is important. Like I said, I can choke down anything, but if you can't, fork over some money for a better tasting one. I'm obviously partial to ON Gold Standard. It's a great product. If you shop at big box stores, they'll generally have, like club stores, they'll have stuff. Optimum has an isolate just for Costco, or at least they did when I was there. That's really good. So you can check that out. That's what I recommend on the protein side. Second really important thing is creatine. That's something that there's obviously a wealth of scientific knowledge available on it. It's proven to be safe. It's proven to be effective. It helps you perform better in the gym. It can help you lift more weight. It can help you do more reps. It can help you recover. It's all very important, right? It's cheap as dirt, right? I can get a kilogram of creatine monohydrate on bulksupplements.com for like $10, right? And that lasts me 6 months.
Yeah.
So it's super cheap. It's really effective. I think everybody should use it. So that's the second thing. Creatine is really important. The third thing, I think everyone could benefit from a good pre-workout. I think, like I said, intensity is really important when it comes to training. And I think that a good pre-workout supplement can help you be intense in the gym, right? That doesn't mean it has to have 400 milligrams of caffeine in it. Doesn't mean it has to have, DMHA in it or whatever else it is. I don't use, quick tangent, I don't use packaged supplements anymore. Not to say they're not great. They are great. The people who work on these are really smart. They're people who are also passionate about fitness, and they use the products themselves. Like everyone I work with at Optimum cares about the products and believes in them. It's the only reason they're out there. And I'm sure at every other company the same way. So I'm not trashing supplements. I just have if you gain knowledge, you're able to do these things yourself, right? Like all, MCS Clash is, which is probably my favorite stem pre-workout. If you're going to buy one, manic recommendation, MCS Clash, number 1. All it is all the active ingredients listed on the label and some flavoring, right? If you want to, you can buy all those ingredients yourself, bulk, online, for less money, and just make it yourself. I'm very picky about the ingredients that I like to use. Therefore, I just buy them bulk, and I make it myself, and I mix it up in a little bit of Crystal Light, and I call it a day. So my pre-workout and my intra are all homemade. Yes. I buy all my stuff on bulksupplements.com and Amazon. And that's what I recommend. So, but I do think pre-workouts are great. I think people without a whole lot of knowledge can benefit from a good pre-workout. Like I said, I don't use Stims pre-workout primarily because I've had a lot of bad experiences with them, right? I used to run, when I was my second year at ON, I used exclusively, it's Core Nutritional's spinoff. It's like the really corny American one. What's it? Oh Lord.
It's like American Labs, or is it another thing?
No, it's like really corny. The pre-workout name is Red, White, and Boom. I'm trying to remember this.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Those guys are like, it had like 400 milligrams caffeine.
Yep.
It had like 200 some milligrams DMHA, and it had some nephrine in it. In 2017, I don't know how they got away with that, but like it made my chest hurt. Right, it was not good. So I stay away from caffeine in pre-workouts because caffeine, whatever other stimulant it is, it increases your heart rate. It also makes you feel more awake. Cool. They are vasoconstrictors, right? And a big goal of mine when I'm training is to vasodilate, trying to increase blood flow. And a lot of the active ingredients in pre-workouts you take, like citrulline and all the other ones that you would take, are going to dilate your blood vessels. So I don't use stimulants in pre-workouts. They can be really effective for people who are trying to lift a lot of weight on a certain day. So for instance, if you're a bodybuilder and you like to deadlift for some reason, by all means, load up on something, drink 4 cups of coffee and then go work out. But it's not something that I do. When it comes to other alternative supplements, things like fat burners, things like glucose disposal agents, things like joint support supplements. I like them. I drink essential aminos. They're cheap to get online, and you throw them in Crystal Light, they're fine. I drink aminos. I think they're good. I don't think you need them, but I think they're great. They're easier to drink the protein, and they can help you ward off muscle catabolism over the course of the day, especially during workouts. So I do use EAAs as an intra-workout. I don't buy fancy carbohydrates. I buy cyclic dextrin and things like that. I drink powdered Gatorade if I need carbs.
Yeah.
So I think there are a lot of supplements that are important. I've used and sworn by ones that some people might say aren't important. But it's all about, the number one thing I would recommend is understand the supplement like in its entirety, right? Read the label, look up all this stuff. There's a wealth, this information's all online. Understand each ingredient's in there. There are some great blogs that all they do is talk about supplements. Stack.com is one that I used to use all the time. And understand the product before you buy it. And then, like we talked about earlier with, with experimenting on yourself, is like, try it and see what happens, right? If it's from a reputable manufacturer, it's not going to hurt you. Believe it or not, they do test these things, and the government does, hold them accountable for what happens. So it's not going to hurt you. Give it a shot, see what happens. But I think everybody can benefit from, obviously, a protein supplement, creatine, and a good pre-workout. I like MTS Clash. I like MTS's non-stim workout. I think it's called Basky. I love all of Redcon One's products. I enjoy Optimum's pre-workouts. I think the thing I like about Optimum's pre-workouts is that they're very good for people who are just getting started. Mm-hmm. They're dosed lower levels of active ingredients, which is okay, especially if you're just getting started. So you can start with 1 scoop, and your second year working out, you can do 2 or 3 or whatever you need. So it's one of the best things about their products. So there's a lot of great, and one of the interesting things about supplements since I worked there, right? When Optimum is a huge company, like they're owned by like big food company, right? That was a little bit of a problem because there wasn't a lot of competition. They weren't pushed to innovate. That's all changed in the last few years, right? Like there are so many people that make supplements now, which is great. It is great because now it pushes them all to be better. It pushes the big guys to be better. So I don't think you really go wrong these days. Just don't be afraid to do your research and try things out and see how it works for you. So that's my 2 cents on supplements.
Yeah, that's some great advice, man. And it's very funny that you bring up some of the topics that you did. A while back, I sent you that podcast. It's called The Supplement Engineer, which, another plug, I think it's a great podcast. He actually had the guy from Core Nutritionals on, and man, he is he is like an extremely intelligent guy. It was wild. And
what a great resource. I don't know if I've seen him in a long form podcast, but you talk about a guy who understands his body perfectly. Doug Miller?
Mm-hmm. Is Doug something?
Doug something.
Yeah.
Incredible. I mean, what this guy can accomplish without drugs is insane. And he does that because he understands himself perfectly. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, getting to hear him in any sort of long form conversation would be just incredible.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then he also had the guy that runs this podcast also has this, it's kind of like a side show. It's called The Final Scoop. And he has like some industry leader formulators and like the guy from stacked.com.
Nice.
He has all of them on, and they just kind of like talk like current events in the supplement space. And that was pretty interesting to hear.
Yeah.
Their opinions on things. And I don't know if you've ever heard of this brand, Matt, Apollo Nutrition.
I'm not.
Yeah, so that guy, he's wild. He's actually going to be at the supplement store in Hamilton, which is close to where I live, this Saturday. Yeah. He lives in North Jersey. So I'm about to go pick his brain on some things.
Nice.
But you'll have to look up the ingredient to this. I can't remember what their product is called, but Apollo's the brand. It's got like 600 milligrams of caffeine.
Oh, Lord.
I know. I'm like, why? Could you imagine? Like, the
Well, I'll
pouch.
tell you what though, that means this guy obviously doesn't like if he's willing to put 600 milligrams of caffeine in his stem pre-workout, he's obviously willing to heavily dose a stem free, which is
Yeah,
good,
yeah,
right? And that's another. You bring up a really good point, which is like what if there are unique ingredients you've never seen before on your pre-workout label? What if there are um, uh, ingredients that are trademarked? Like what does that mean? What like and that happens more and more these days because some of these nutraceutical companies are coming out with really interesting new functional ingredients. One of the ones that was big when I was working in the field is nitrosogene, which is like a arginine alternative that's more bioavailable, right? It's awesome stuff. There's also actually the parent company of Optimum came out with a glycerol alternative. It's a form of glycerol, Hydromax. That's what it's called. Also phenomenal. It's just a better version of glycerol monostearate, which is another one of my favorite pump inducers. And if an ingredient is trademarked on a label, that means the company that developed it put in a lot of work to get it trademarked, right?
yeah.
There are big companies who have a lot of money to put towards real science and real R&D, and that stuff works. So don't be afraid of registered ingredients. Like if you look them up, the manufacturer will be happy to tell you all about them and why they work and how great they are and all the studies that support it. So don't be afraid of them. They're normally great. In fact, they're probably the easiest supplement to assume is great. But definitely do a little bit of research so that you understand how much dose should be in a product, and make sure you're not getting ripped off by the supplement manufacturer who's just not using enough of it.
Yeah.
So that's a really important thing.
Have you ever seen so the one pre-workout I'm trying right now, it's like we were talking about John Meadows earlier. It's
Yeah.
called, what is that one called? Maybe it's just like the Granite pre-workout. But man, I feel like
I've never used any of Granite supplements, but I imagine they're awesome. If I know anything about John Meadows, they're probably phenomenal.
yeah, he's got like, I mean, it's decent dosing. He's got like 6 milligrams, 6 grams of L-citrulline, like glycerol, like you said. Then like 3 grams creatine,
Yep.
decent amount of beta alanine, and it's pretty low stim as well.
Yeah.
And man, just like the focus I've had is pretty good. I'm really happy with it. And I would definitely concur with you that like a pre-workout, while I feel like sometimes just supplements in a whole get a bad rap, it can help. So
Absolutely. And a couple more things I'll mention on supplements before we move on. One, obviously, John Meadows, a guy that everyone in the fitness industry knows of and knows he puts out incredible content, and he's an informative guy, knows what he's talking about. That's like, if he's behind the supplement, you can trust it, right? And a lot of my favorite brands, that's the case, right? You heard me, shout out MTS and the crew down there. I trust MTS because Mark Lobliner is a guy who cares about his products and has done it before and is passionate about his brand and interacts with people who tries products, and you can trust someone like that, right? The guy from Core, same way, a guy who obviously cares about the products. And one more quick plug I want to shout out is that a good friend of mine, most people are familiar with Ghost, but if you're not, a good friend of mine from Optimum is the director of R&D over there. So they have got the brains of Optimum and, an entrepreneur approach to things. And they are taking a very interesting, more lifestyle approach to performance supplements. Highly recommend you guys check out their stuff. They've got some awesome collaborations with candy companies and ice cream companies and stuff that they use. And I'll tell you what, as somebody, I hope if any of my LN friends watch this, I don't care that I say this, but like when that happens, right? Like for instance, BSN for a while, I don't know if I think they came out with it, was going to partner with Cold Stone Creamery for a partnership. And when that happens, they're not just saying you can put Cold Stone's logo on your label, right? Like when we partner with Cold Stone for BSN for Synthesis 6, they sent over like the actual flavors that actually go into their ice cream. Like it's real, like it's 100% the actual thing. Like obviously whey protein is not ice cream, so it's not gonna taste the same. We had to make some adjustments, but the same exact flavor that's in Cold Stone ice cream is also in Synthesis 6. And for Ghost Warheads and Ghost Lucky Charms whey and whatever else, they have a whole bunch of collaborations. It's the same thing. So the stuff's real. They've got some awesome gear. Check out Ghost Lifestyle team over there. They're doing awesome stuff.
Right. Yeah, that's funny that you bring up Ghost. I actually just had their like energy drink in the can, and those flavors are crazy. Like I feel like whereas they might not have the best ingredients for performance. Like you
I
said,
agree.
it's more of a lifestyle type of deal.
Yep.
One of my friends, and you might have run into him at OSU, but he usually worked out at the RPAC a little later than you did. His name's Sam Smith. He has done a lot of work with Ghost,
Awesome.
especially in the area of Columbus. And he was like, I was talking to him earlier today. He said he was about to hop on a call where they just kind of like consult with people about like the whole lifestyle thing. So
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, my buddy who moved on from Optimum, he's he's the direct. This guy is behind. Hopefully, he doesn't care for this too. He came out with OM Cake Bites. That was his thing.
mm-hmm.
The OM Protein Almond. Some of the coolest. One of the things I really like about Optimum since I've left, is they've moved away from trying to beat small guys at like the extreme pre-workout game and saying, hey, we make great protein. Let's just make protein food. And they're all in on it. And they have great bars. They have great bites. They've got the protein almonds, which is great. I was around when those were getting developed. So that's cool. I love how they're putting their stuff in grocery stores. For a long time, they didn't want to do that because they were worried it would sacrifice the brand of ON if you could buy it at Kroger. I didn't really understand it, and I don't think it has. So I'm glad they've been successful there, and they're all in on we're just going to make really great food with more protein in it. That's a good message from them. So yeah, I mean, like I said, there's never been a better time to be a consumer of sports supplements. And so get out there and like enjoy all the market has brought you because it is glorious.
Yeah. So I don't want to keep you for too much longer, Matt, but would you like to share any of what your next moves are, future goals that you're going to be pursuing, and just kind of like what's on your mind in terms of your own development?
Yeah, it's some concrete goals are things that I think are really important. Long-term ones are really important, especially because in bodybuilding, it's tough to see your progress day in and day out, right? I'm a big believer in before and after photos. Like they're really uncomfortable, but they work, and you're never gonna appreciate your progress without them. And in bodybuilding, it's really easy to get caught up in the day-to-day and not appreciate, right? Like you're walking on a knife's edge of like serious body image issues. So understand where you're at and where you've come from, or you're gonna really not enjoy yourself. So setting goals and then tracking them with pictures or with your wife who can tell you or whoever it is, that's really effective, because otherwise you're just going to get lost in the sauce and not really understand where you've come from. Weight can be a good thing, but really if you're into bodybuilding, you don't care about weight. So using pictures I think are really important. Goals for me, I've accomplished a couple over the last few months. Dave, a big goal for me in college even. I wanted to get 20-inch arms as a natural. And I have as of a few weeks ago. So that was a big one to cross off the list. At this point, I'm interested in slimming down a little bit. Like I said, I was 240, about 10% body fat, and I would like to lower that a little bit.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'm going to hold on to all the muscle mass I have at 240. I don't think 240 is a good weight. I don't think that's, from a health standpoint, going to be something that I want to continue to do. So probably drop a little bit of weight, slim down the first time in a long time, which may be a good idea to talk a little about how I diet when I do lose weight, which I haven't done over a long term in a couple years. I mean, I've trimmed down for vacations or different things. So, I'm going to diet for a month and lose, 5-10 pounds, look a little better and go on, right? What I do generally in that instance is I just like cut out carbs for like 2 weeks. I just eat literally as few carbs as possible, drop 10 pounds of water, look a lot better, move on. So this will be a really fun thing for me to do. I haven't like dieted in a very long time. And so it'll be fun for me to maybe try to count calories, maybe get a better idea of my own basal metabolic rate, my activity levels, try out different foods, different diets, things that are easy to maintain, things that are easy to make for myself, and see how I go. So like we talked about earlier, it's all about learning. I haven't learned a lot in the dieting side of things in years. So if we do this again in 6 months, I'm gonna have a whole bunch of new things I learned.
Yeah.
Trying to cut. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I'm thinking maybe, 230 is probably a good weight for me to be at, maintain that and see if I can't continue to put on some muscle mass while being a little more responsible about overall body weight. Because like I said, if you get too heavy, it can be a problem. So that's the goals for the gym for me. Like I said, weak points, I care a lot about my traps. I care a lot about my chest. My chest has always been a weak point for me. My traps, so I'm going to keep working on those. And yeah, gonna diet, which I know you must think is crazy. I've not dieted in a very long time. So see how it goes. Your guests have probably heard this from you in the past, but I care about some of the things that are coming up for you too. I mean, what are your goals inside the gym? Do you have, are you caring about certain weight on big lifts, or do you have certain physique goals? What's going on with you?
Yeah, so for me, I appreciate you asking. For me, my current goal is to compete in a powerlifting meet in December.
Right.
So I trained, I mean, after the COVID shutdown, I switched like purely to hypertrophy training, right? Just kind of due to the nature of the equipment I had. We talked a
Right.
little bit about, utilizing home equipment like bands. And of course, you saw like the weird stuff I was doing in my
I saw
barn.
the squat rack.
Yeah, the squat rack
Loved it.
and the weights.
Yes.
So I switched that and I really fell in love with it. And I trained that style from like March to August. So I think I made it. It was like a kind of like similarly to how dieting will be for you. It was the same thing for me. Was learning all these different hypertrophy principles and stuff like that. And I actually dieted down to 205. I felt like in the summer I was pretty happy with my physique,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to continue that weight cut down to 198. That would have been brutal, and I definitely would have been weaker. So right now I'm working on getting back up to 220 because last year I actually came in 5 pounds light on my weigh-in. So just, of course you're leaving numbers out on the platform when you come in that light.
Right.
So like we were talking, working on learning how to efficiently do like massing. And man, it's been fun to learn something new and to focus on that. And at the same time, I'm kind of like right in the midst of shifting my training into that more like specific strength type work to
Yeah.
get my squat, bench, and deadlift hopefully higher than last year. So my goals for this meet would be to squat 405, which would be like 30-pound PR. I want to bench in the upper twos because I know that that pause is tricky. So
Yeah.
last year, my bench just completely pooped out on me, and I had hit like 285 with a touch and go in the gym. But then like I only hit 255 in the meet, so that was pretty disappointing. But I definitely want to hit like 295.
Awesome.
And then I've been chasing a 500-pound deadlift for like a year now, so I think that's definitely coming around. My deadlift has been feeling great lately, so
That's great.
that's what's up in the gym. Also, like we were mentioning earlier, I took a decent amount of time to transition my platform online. So whether it be just putting out informational content to help people not make some of the mistakes that we've made in the past, and also picking up clients because I really enjoy working with people online. I feel like it's an affordable option that can provide a really good amount of value. And I just like connecting with people in that way too. It's fun for me to like text back and forth with people and do the check-ins. So I've also picked up the YouTube thing. So just learning how to be a better editor, learning how to get better shots on the camera. It's something that's like a whole other realm for me. So really, I think I love just learning. Like I'll throw in a podcast in the background while I'm doing stuff, watch an informational video. I think that's kind of like the overarching principle for me is just continue to learn new stuff.
Yeah.
But and then apply it to like my career because making money is nice as well.
Bingo. One of the things I really admire about you, Dave, well, obviously I've talked about a bunch of things I admire about you, but you don't do one thing, right? You're not a power lifter. Well, you are, right? You are a power lifter and you are a bodybuilder and you are a trainer, and you do all these things. You care about your physique, you care about the numbers you lift, because you and I talked a lot about prioritization today, which I think is something that a lot of fitness people don't talk about. But it's also like, you don't have to be a one sport athlete. If you enjoy different things in the gym, do what you enjoy. right? Like, and so I love how you can say, yeah, you know what, right now, I've got this 3-month window where it's a great time to put on some muscle. Let's put on some muscle. Let's prioritize that. Let's do it hard. Let's hit it hard. Let's do it. And then, bam, you switch gears. You're putting up big weight in the platform. You want to do this. And that keeps fitness exciting. And that helps you continue to progress, because what happened, plateauing is something that a lot of people have to overcome in the fitness journeys, but eventually you reach a plateau you're never going to break. And that's just your natural limits, right? And they're hard to hit, but even before you hit them, as you get closer and closer and closer, eventually you don't progress as fast and you don't do things as quickly and things like that. And so it's always great to shake things up and do things different. And you continuing to do a bunch of things, it doesn't only make you a more interesting person, it helps you share more information with the people that you share information with. And so I love the fact there's so few people that do that. So few. So the fact that you do it all and soak it all in and know about it all is huge. One of the cool things about you.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate that, man. And honestly, for everyone listening, I think that's a great takeaway from this episode as a whole. It's just continue to try to learn about what you're passionate about and use that to, one, achieve your goals and to help other people. I feel like that would be a great place to end it. I'm not going to.
That would be, cut it, man. Cut the black right there.
All right, guys, we will catch you in the next episode. Thank you all so much for listening. And Matt, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Dave. Anytime you need me, I'll be back. Thanks everyone for listening.